Aloha and welcome back. If you have already been tuning in to this amazing summit, awakening to the magic of the menstrual cycle. I'm so excited. Today I have Miss Anaiya Sophia with me. Welcome, Anaiya. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yay. Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit of your bio to get those that are not familiar with you a little bit more familiar. Um, so Miss Anaiya Sophia is a mystic, storyteller, and author of revelatory wisdom. She teaches workshops throughout the world and is best known for the creation of Sacred Body Awakening. Known for showing up as a trailblazing resource of unapologetic truth and transparent courage, her heart is both fierce and tender. She carries an oral message that stirs the remembrance of a continuous lineage with the feminine principle that throughout the centuries has preserved its spiritual dignity without the need for permission or recognition from any other source. So beautiful. She is the author of several books. I'm just going to name a few of them here. Womb Wisdom, Sacred Relationships, Fierce Feminine Rising, and Sacred Sexual Union, just to name a few of them. Miss Anaiya has also designed her own clothing range, which she calls Anaiya's Wardrobe. And she's also created her own range of anointing oils called Sophia Temple Oils. Wow, what amazing creations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful bio. I really love the wording of that, and especially the unapologetic truth. That's so very needed in the world right now. So really grateful to be bringing some of that here to share with the audience.
Yeah.
So
Thank
I would
you.
love for you to share a little bit about your journey and kind of how you came onto this path, even though I'm pretty sure it's probably your whole life. But if you could just share a little bit about what brought you to this work.
Yeah. There was, in fact, a real turning point, and that was in 2009, where two things had happened. Number one, I accepted the invitation to co-author Womb Wisdom. And
Mm.
within 3 days of agreeing, I had a call from my doctor in the UK saying that the results of my latest pap smear or smear test, as it's called in the UK, had come back and things were not good. There was a very severe abnormality in the cervix, and they wanted me to come in the next day and have that looked at, taken care of, and have a biopsy with a view to how much are they going to remove. But I was moving to France that next day. So
Wow.
I remember, because when I was invited to write Womb Wisdom, I was a Kundalini yoga teacher, and all I had that I could contribute at that time was my understanding of subtle anatomy, the second chakra, and everything that goes on energetically in the sacral area. And I remember thinking, are you sure you want me to write the book? When I was on that telephone call, I realized, oh my God, this goes hand in hand. This
Mm.
path and this path make this path.
Mm.
And of course, they wanted to bring me in to a hospital, but I couldn't because I was moving. So I bought myself about 6 to 8 weeks of time because I had to promise the UK that I would go straight to a doctor, straight to a hospital, send my notes over, and then they could do the operation.
Mm.
But in that time, I went on a little mission. I went on a mission to kind of like literally do this. Okay, it's time. I know I've got ghosts down there. I
Mm.
know I'm far from peace as a sexual being. It's time. It's time to face this now. I had to do it for me, for health, and I had to do it to write this book. And what I found down there was, it was like an underworld, an underworld of extremely volatile emotions, strong hates, strong loves, the good girl, the bad girl, sexuality, spirituality, and there was no ground in between. So it's like this battle was absolutely at the center of it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
really
yeah. And I did say, and the next part, when I did follow up in France, just before I'm going under the knife, it really was a case of, well, let's just see how things are down there. And it was like, ooh, huh. Well, I don't think we do have to operate after all. It had all settled down.
wow.
But in the meantime, I had turned into Kali.
Yeah.
Anger, rage, hate, blame, judgment, all of it.
That sounds like some very heavy energy to move through.
Absolutely, yes.
What a
Yeah,
powerful story to have physically caused such a powerful shift in your physical body just
yeah,
in that short period of a few weeks of you really diving into those challenging emotions. That's really a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
you're welcome. Yeah.
If you are interested, I would love to hear a little bit about kind of like some of the ways that you supported yourself in exploring those heavier emotions and helping yourself process some of it.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty much mapped out in Womb Wisdom. That's the book that contains the journey. But
Mm,
in essence, it was literally a battle of light and dark. There was the light part of me that was really on like a Christ path. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm leading that very sattvic life.
mm,
But there's another part, inequality. Absolutely the same amount of energy in the more primordial, the darker. When I say darker, I don't mean evil, but unknown, in the feminine, and a very strong embodied sexuality, and wanting to explore where that would lead, and
mm,
knew that it would lead to opening of doors psychically. And so I was trying to, if I wasn't trying to squash that at certain times of my life, I was trying to lift it up and explore. And then I'd go so far and go, oh no, bad, down again. And that was the essence. And when I mapped out this journey for womb wisdom, that is the kind of energy that I believed, from my own experience, was at the cervix. This
mm,
good girl, bad girl, Eve, Lilith, the whore, the virgin. And of course, the cervix is what leads to the womb space up above. So I kind of said in the book, if we can't work this out between Eve and Lilith within us and outside of us, if we have issues with any woman expressing
mm,
one version or the other, we're not going to authentically make our way to the womb, because these kind of things have to be ironed out. They're like guardians. It's
mm.
like, if you want to get to the womb, you got to get past Eve and Lilith, and honor them both. Look at them both. I honor you, totally honor you, and I'm really at peace with the pair of you inside of me and outside in all other women.
Mm.
So may I enter? And they're like, of course, my lady, this way. You have passed your test.
That is such a beautiful way to put all of that and such useful information to share. The more and more I get into this whole pelvic bowl work and really like womb wisdom, the more I'm really starting to have my own perspective open to the vast landscape that is
Yeah,
down there. to be explored. It's really
Yeah.
incredible thinking that most women are still totally asleep to this huge dimension of themselves, myself included. I haven't really explored it very much, but I'm well on my way to meeting some of those personalities that you were talking about.
Yeah.
It keeps bringing to mind the importance of understanding ourselves through the archetypal language,
Yes.
mentioning, like the embodiment of Kali, for instance, and what she's about and what that feels like for yourself, and Lilith and Eve, and like there's all these like different faces, and we're not taught this at
Yeah.
any appropriate age, really, and so many women struggle and battle with these certain types of wants and desires and urges and these emotions that they feel that society tells us is bad, and so we end up shoving it down, just like you said, because we think it's bad.
Yes. Yeah. 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 And
Yes.
unfortunately, when when a woman is reclaiming her Lilith, probably back in my day, the 90, not the 90s, 2009, 2010, I was afraid that if I really pursued the part of Lilith, I would end up in some kind of pornographic world of that kind of energy, at its lowest
Mm,
ebb, like really yuck. But that's society.
yeah.
The patriarchy has taught us that. That is not where Lilith, that's not where she ends. She is a
Mm,
wild shamaness, an initiatory force, a catalyzing agent who uses sexuality, but not just sexuality. She is the great one of the unknown. You don't know what she's going to do next, what she's going to pull out the bag. If you think it's all about pole dancing and strutting around in a pair of heels, then you have been hoodwinked by the patriarchy. And that, they're like that, great, fabulous. That's what they think.
yeah.
She
Yeah.
is far more than that.
It's really beautiful to hear. It kind of makes me think about how that was probably one of the main aspects that caused things like the witch burning, is that aspect of a female that is so powerful and unapologetic and magical. And it's not a wonder why things like the witch burnings happened when the patriarchal reign has been at its peak on the planet, and why we would think things like you just said about, if you even like attempt to get familiar with that archetype, that it might lead you down the path to something like pornography. That's just another
Yeah,
reflection of it being distorted to keep us from really coming home to it and getting familiar with that energy.
that's right. That's right.
So tell me some things that you feel like, some benefits that you feel you have experienced in your life from exploring these archetypes and getting familiar with them in your own experience. What has that done for your life?
Well, I always say that Eve, so that's the gracious, loving, healing, blessing part of us, that Eve carries Lilith's heart,
Mm,
and Lilith carries Eve's power. Without the two of them being in union, there's a very high possibility that Eve will not authentically develop any kind of discernment, or have a nose for intuition, let alone speak out, let alone break silence
yeah.
and speak about the elephant in the room. So she will remain beautiful, gorgeous, graceful, tender, but totally weak and totally naive. And Lilith, as fabulous as Lilith is all by herself, powerful, independent, initiatory, mysterious. She will never actually be given the opportunity to truly love at a incredible, great depth and intimacy. So Lilith, all by herself, she will shy away from intimacy, and actually, you know, offering her heart. So to bring these two together, which is what I feel a real woman is. It's not Eve and Lilith. It's a marriage of the two of them. So that has so been my journey. And yeah, I feel that the greatest gifts are, I'm not afraid to speak out. I'm not afraid to challenge if I sense, I don't like the feel of that. Or if I feel myself sort of like being placed in a web of manipulation, I will sense it very, very quickly and just start, you know, cutting my way out.
That sounds very powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
So it has helped you find your voice more.
Yes. Yeah.
And has sharpened your intuition, sounds like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, now, you know, that first little hint of discernment, I'm listening. At the first waving of a red flag, I'm listening. And I don't care if I'm the only one. That's another thing. I didn't like the idea of being the only one. You know, if a whole gang of us are going along with something, and I just, you know, poke my head up and go, I'm not feeling it. I couldn't have done that before. I'd have been a little chameleon and just gone with it, knowing that I'm not really wanting to.
Wow.
Anymore. Yeah.
Oh my, how much you've grown. I'm so grateful that you had the courage to really dive into those shadow aspects of yourself and liberate them and find wholeness through it. That's really incredible. And what it's done for your intuition.
All of this, what I've just shared, also came in during my menopause. And that's something I'd love to share if you want to go there, because the menopause really set the stage for this to be really grounded.
Yes.
I know your summit is about the menstrual blood, but I want to like shout out to all the ladies. Ladies, don't you be fearing that menopause. It is colossal, an unprecedented change. Yes, it is. But by golly, you are given so much more of yourself in that process if you don't cling to what you were. You know, at the beginning, I was doing a bit of clinging on to youth, clinging on to being sexy and sassy, like white knuckles. I thought, lady, you gotta let go on. So I let go and just let my physical self change. But in that came this, you know, every night was a sweaty, tumultuous, mystical dream. Meeting the crone, kissing the crone, really getting quite natural and wild now. Amazing.
Sounds incredible.
It's a biggie. It's a biggie. I never had children. So of course, you know, life has been quite smooth in terms of feminine initiation, apart from that deal with the cervix.
Yes.
But everything else has been quite graceful, and then suddenly, bam, menopause.
It sounds like it's a big deal.
It was.
I think it is for every woman, but it's really good.
No.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's absolutely unique. Every single part is unique.
Yes.
Perhaps, this is just my two pennies, perhaps because I didn't have children, my female body was kind of like, right, okay, we're gonna save all this energy, and when it's her time, you know, the hormonal system is going to explode. It felt that way. I don't know, that might be my imagination.
No, I think you're very right when you say that it's unique for every woman. And I just know that it's a significant initiation on the path of, what it is to be a woman. And that's something that I feel is still not talked about enough, and women aren't prepared enough for it, and told things to help them feel better about it, and to help them feel okay about letting go of their old identity and welcoming in a new one, and to know that there's amazing gifts in this new version of yourself that is coming if you just honor your processes and grieve whatever loss of identity that you need to go through, and simultaneously birth a new version of yourself, which is what we're continually doing throughout our life as women, is more the death of an old part and birthing a new part of us just continually through life. So
it's really so lovely. It's so, I didn't know, I didn't really quite know what to go through. And so much healing came through other women. Because, my husband and I, we have a B&B here in the south of France. And of course, quite a few readers make their way here, because it also corresponds with Mary Magdalene and Cathar land. This is quite a mystical area in the south of France. So, the house is often full of women, all ages. And I kind of open up pretty quickly. So everyone was quite tuned in to me going through this journey. And so many ladies would say, what is it you're most concerned about? And I'm like, I'm putting on extra weight around my waist, around my face, my wrinkles. And so we do this like embodied honoring, where, hands on to that area. And women would be saying, I see you, I feel you, I honor this process in you. And of course I'm like, honor? What? I thought we're all meant to be running away from this. Because I was very sure I'm not going to do anything unnatural. No HRT, certainly no nipping and tucking, no lifting. That was so healing. That was so amazing.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that's something.
We're quite trained to compare and contrast ourselves physically.
Definitely.
Taller, blonder, slimmer, bigger boobs, nicer butt. And so, we're just undoing all of that. Undoing. Yeah.
It is quite the process of peeling back those layers of programming.
Yeah.
That each of us has to do. And I think what you were just sharing is a really beautiful representation of the power of true sisterhood and what that means. And what I personally feel like it's really meant to be for us is a support system, and us celebrating each other and helping lift one another up, and celebrating our uniqueness, and being that divine mirror for others when they start to forget their own beauty and uniqueness.
Yeah.
That's one of the parts about having one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you have an Airbnb where you're at?
Yes.
That is so awesome. What a magical place for you to be in right now.
Oh gosh. Oh God, absolutely. I often think, wow, what would I do if I was back in the UK? In more of a city environment right now, as we're in the lockdown. But where we are, it's just mountains and woods and greenery.
Nature. We're all magic.
And very historical nature.
Yeah.
A lot of very interesting things have been going on here.
Definitely. Is this, okay, so I'm not super familiar with the geography and the details of the history, but you did mention something about Mary Magdalene, and I know of some of the story of her spending time there. Is
Yes.
this a different place than Avalon? Is Avalon in the UK, or is that in France?
Yeah. Avalon is in the UK,
Okay.
now known as Glastonbury.
Okay.
But there's 3 sites in France where Mary Magdalene landed, where she came and taught in her younger part of life, and then where she crossed over and went to die in the cave. So the Sainte Marie de la Mer, where she landed, the Languedoc, which is our region, and then Provence, Saint Baume, the cave where she spent her last years. And Avalon, Glastonbury, my sort of two penneth of that story is that's where her daughter went. So Sarah went to Glastonbury, perhaps teamed up with a high priest druid. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
That works for me. And also took what we call the Jizu Maria stone in Glastonbury Abbey, and you can still see it today. There is a great big solid stone with a very simple not scratched in, but hammered in Jizu, so not Jesus, but Jesu, and then underneath Maria. And the tale is they actually chipped that into the stone, and that's what Sarah brought to Glastonbury, and that became the very first stone of Glastonbury Abbey, as we see the Abbey today.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a big wow.
So according to your knowledge, Mary Magdalene did have a child.
Yes.
And that was an offspring of Jesus?
Yes.
Whoa. I have only just like heard a little bit about this in like fictional.
Right. Well, it's still fictional. There is no real staunch evidence.
Sure.
But it's definitely, these stories are like centuries old.
Yeah.
Where there's no smoke without fire. Where did these stories come from?
Definitely.
There's a whole lineage around Sarah and the continuation of the bloodline.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
very interesting and something that I would love to hear more about.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that you're like the area that you're in France is it holds that energy, and it, even though I don't think that it's like popular in books and it's not popularly taught, but there still seems to be a lot of energy and remembrance around this area and the history of it having to do with Mary Magdalene, and like, where does that come from? Like still prevalent in that area. So it's got to make you wonder, even if it's not in our history books, where that information came from, how it has stayed alive for this long.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was a whole movement 700 years ago called Cathars, although they didn't call themselves that here. And you could say that they were the spiritual descendants of Mary Magdalene. And, they say that whatever impression we think Jesus made in the Holy Land, and that was quite a big impression,
I'd say.
That eventually turned into a massive religion. But Mary Magdalene had exactly the same impact here. So she's the one speaking, healing, doing miracles. To the people of France, Mary Magdalene is their patron saint, but she's not a fictional tale. She was here. That they really owned that. She was here. She taught us.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You might have heard of this book before. It's called the Magdalene Manuscript.
Yes. Tom Kenyon.
Yeah. That book is so interesting to hear some of the perspective from her. And I have another book that, I mean, basically, I believe that there was some writings about her originally, possibly that were in the, or like, first version of the Bible that got taken out. And so there's not really been like historical documents about her. So it's really interesting for anyone that's open to like channeled material, finding types of books that are like channeled material from her, hearing her words and perspective on things is just mind-blowing. Like one of the pieces that I found super interesting in that Magdalene manuscript is the detail that she goes into about sexual alchemy and how her and Jesus were working with their sexual energy and alchemy to build his ka, his energetic body, in preparation for his death and resurrection experience, so that he could make it through that. That is just so fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, I'm fully behind all of that. I read that book and just come away from it going, yes, yes, everything in this book is true.
Definitely. Well, I mean, it's just when you read about something, there's a difference between, I personally feel there's a difference between just like believing and knowing inside of you that something is true. There's not a question, you just know. And it doesn't matter where it comes from or who tells you what about it. There's just a knowing about it. Wow. I didn't think that she was going to come through in this conversation, but it doesn't surprise me. I am just so appreciating feeling her energy, Mary Magdalene, and presence just popping up all over the place, like all over the world right now, in all kinds of women and works and stories. It just, I feel her very strongly in her presence and her celebration where we're at right now for all of us.
This era, this moment we're in now, you know, with the lockdown and Bill Gates and heavy oppression, and is this some form of control? This is very similar to Mary Magdalene's life. You know, she had to stay one step ahead of this oppressive foreign power, the Romans. You know, they wanted to kill her. They wanted to put an end to what she was saying. So, you know, despite living under those conditions, look at what she left behind. Look at the legacy, the transmission. Not only is it still with us, it's getting stronger as every year goes past. So I want to show Mary to all of us listening. Let her be our icon, because she did this all by herself. She had a close couple around her, I would say. But by the time she reached France, she was pretty much on her own. And despite heavy suppression, heavy censorship, and really trying to like get rid of her entire legacy at that time and ever since, she still just keeps on rising.
It still lives.
Yeah.
Incredible. I have been thinking about that piece more and more lately, about like just going back to the witch burnings, that like such a strong desire to just like completely oust that aspect of the feminine, which is the core of who we are, and how like just how much effort has been put forth to suppress this aspect of us for so long, and how it's still there, how it's still alive, and how it's growing every day. And no matter what efforts were put forth, it just it doesn't work. It didn't work. And we're finally at a time on the planet now where I personally feel like it's time to let all of that rise and out and reclaim that within each and every one of us, reclaim speaking our truth, finding our voice, getting in touch with those different aspects of ourselves, that really sweet maiden of Eve and the very powerful, ferocious Lilith, because both of them are really important. Just like you said, without Lilith, you stay naive and weak and you are easily tricked. You can't see manipulation when it's all around you, nor would you have the strength to get yourself out of that and cut yourself away, as you were saying. So to really know the energy of both of them and know that it's totally natural and divine to have both inside of you, and not be so apologetic in life anymore.
No.
Just know what's right for you.
I often imagine in the Garden of Eden that it was Lilith saying, take this apple. You know, very much like Morpheus in the Matrix. You know, saying to Adam and Eve, what do you want? You want to stay here in this perfect little world when there is something absolute beyond, outside of this garden? In that case, do nothing. But if you want to know yourself, if you want to fully awaken and step out of this garden, this is Lilith, then take a bite of this apple. If womankind, every single one of us, has that initiatory power inside of us as our birthright, every woman, every single everyday woman has that like streak of magic. And of course, the church fathers made that act very, very bad. You know, that's the fall from grace. No, it wasn't. That was the rising of awakening. From that moment onwards, Adam and Eve knew and could see what the Garden of Eden was. It was a mollycoddled, made of cotton wool little paradise. To just, you know, just make sure you guys just remain in these boundaries and, you know, just start making humans. Thank you. Yeah.
I really like the way that you compare that to Morpheus in The Matrix. I just watched all three of those recently because I wanted to watch it from the perspective that I hold now, as opposed to when they very first came out. It was really quite interesting. And that's a really good comparison that you just gave. Thank you for that. So I just want to circle back around to menopause for a moment for anybody that's watching. If you have any words of wisdom or encouragement for women who are going to be going through menopause, or perhaps didn't really have support through it themselves. I wonder if there's encouraging or some pieces that like women can look forward to through the journey. Yeah.
I feel the whole thing should be approached with just like an initiation. You know, you could say like an ayahuasca ceremony. I've never done it, but I've seen plenty of documentaries on it. You know, there's a sense of, oof, tomorrow is the ceremony. Nerves, butterflies, sweating, heart, preparation for my, you know, cleansing, purifying. And then there's the walk to where the ceremony is happening. And, you know, the, here we go, here we go. And then, of course, you get given your medicine and you have a little moment with your shaman or your shamaness. And then I guess it's a case of, okay, whoop. Menopause, what I've seen, it's a very similar experience. It will show you. The first thing is the revealing of where you're not being true to yourself. You know, are you in an awkward and uncomfortable relationship, job, family situation, home situation? Are you sabotaging your own creativity? Are you lying to yourself? Have you got secrets inside of you? It's like, oh God, get off my case. But that's just the crone coming in. And of course, there'll be another phase, which could be the holding on to how things was. You know, your sexual appeal, your attraction, your flirtation, your I can get any man. I was a little bit like that. Had to let go. That came up. You know, how for so long I'd been, oh my gosh, be quiet, you guys. How I'd been using that part of me to sort of like move and groove. And now I've got to let go. Tilly, stop it. The cat's in here as well. Okay, hot tips. Talk about it. Talk about it. Journal. Open up a conversation with others. No, it's about seeing what's not real, what's not true anymore. Go with it. Be as natural as you can. And if the symptoms are really quite full on, you know, the hot sweats, the palpitating heart, not sleeping, all of that stuff, I turned to the medical medium. That's a book. It's called The Medical Medium. He's a well-known guy in the States. And yeah, with his advice, within a few days, literally, everything had settled right down.
Wow.
It's a time of awakening. It's a time of great authenticity and your next spiritual quest, or you are now more capable of holding this, and it sort of lands in your lap. Yeah.
And you go to meet the crone to get your medicine served from her.
I started imagining me as a crone, so me in my 80s, in my 90s. And I actually did some fun stuff on Facebook. I had one of those face apps where you put in one of your photos and it turns you into a really old woman.
Wow.
And I wore a long silvery wig. So that was my profile for a while.
Wow.
And, you know, I used to just like move around the house. And I wanted to imagine the crone, you know, how you would in Celtic storytelling, you know, the hag, hardly any teeth, a little bit crooked, a little bit bent, gnarly fingers, but my face. And what's so amazing is you see what looks like a weakened elderly form, but when you actually interact and actually sort of feel her power, it's like, holy shit, she's full of Shakti.
Wow.
This little thing, that's just a masquerade. When you engage, wow, you're dealing with Mount Pelé.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then I wasn't so afraid anymore of looking that old. Because a lot of us don't want to look in the mirror and see that age.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of went, no, I want to see it. You know, let me use this app. Let's really have a good look at me in my 80s.
Thank you, technology.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really empowering exercise for you to do, especially knowing what you have shared a little bit about your past with your younger years and some of the challenge of letting go of some of that coming through menopause. So that's really big of you to be able to just dive right in and fully embrace that, and to even use an app to create yourself in a much older version. That's really awesome. Did that.
It's so funny because I put it on Facebook and everyone was like clicking and liking, and I'm like, and then I said, do you realize it's me? And everyone was like, yeah, of course it's you, we can see it's you. And I'm like, oh shit. It really is realistic. But no, and there's the other great healing. No one was fazed.
Mm.
No one said, why have you done this?
Wow.
It was more like, wow, you look incredible. I
Mm.
hope to get to see you one day when you're like this for real. I'm like, oh, I thought everyone is like, using the app to go the other way. Younger version of self.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah.
But you are not afraid to be different and
Nah,
and
that's been my
stand,
character all along.
yeah, and stand
This is
out of the
Jess.
crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. This really helps me personally. I'm not anywhere close to menopause, but just receiving this type of information, even at my age, really helps me feel better and more confident
Mm.
about moving through that, like, in my own journey eventually. And I know that just receiving some experience and advice like this and words of wisdom it really helps to empower other women to not feel bad about the changes that they move through in their life, and to know that there are gifts in every version of yourself if you're willing to accept them. And honestly, I don't think that we really have a choice at some point, because we're moving through the cycles regardless of what we want.
Yeah.
So why not embrace it and celebrate it, which you just displayed so beautifully.
I must confess, I was definitely kicking and screaming for a while and backtracking.
Yeah.
But yeah, after a while, you just realize, oh God, this is inevitable. It's not letting up. Oh, in
Yeah.
that case, I surrender.
Well, you're in the body anyways. It's
Yeah.
part of the human experience. What a crazy journey this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the other things that I have learned about menopause specifically is, so like the menstrual cycle, from one perspective, is an initiatory process, and each month we go through a death and rebirth and an initiation into a new version of ourselves. And when you cross over that initiation through menopause and you don't bleed anymore, it's like you hold all of the wisdom that you gained through all of those initiations during your menstrual cycle, and you really get to take up your rightful place as a wise matriarch in the community,
Yeah. Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
honored for all of your experience and wisdom gained and everything that you have experienced, and hold that space for others, that
Yeah.
space of confidence and knowing for
Yeah.
the younger women
Yeah.
in the community. It
Yeah.
personally feels like such a a, a seat of honor. Like, what an honorable position to be in once you've made it through all of that. And um, just to know that there's honor there, and there's still plenty of joy to be felt during
Yeah.
that process is really powerful. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Um, Also, I wanted to just touch on something that we mentioned in a previous conversation about, I mean, I think we kind of like covered some of this anyways, but kind of like busting through some of the myths of menopause, and about how your sexual energy and desires don't have to dry up and be suppressed through that experience, just because that's what the mainstream culture is leading us to
Mhm.
believe, that you can still be a vivacious, empowered woman in tune with her sexual energy, even through that
Mhm.
initiation, right?
Yes. However, um, remember I was saying, you just like you enter this hall of mirrors, and one of my reflections was a sense of I am having sex with duty. So, yeah, I still retained my desire, my interest, my vitality, all of my energy that made me want to, look beautiful and take care of myself. But I started to look at my sexual relationship with my husband. Nothing wrong in what we were doing, but it was just the regular. And I kind of went, no, no, no. I know more than this. I may not have lived it much. I've lived it enough to know it exists. Now, if I continue just having regular, dutiful sex with my husband and just going along with it, we will never move to what I have had a taste of. So I'm going to have to just be strong because I've got the power now. It's a no. But it wasn't a heart-closing no. It was just that I'm not going to be part of this. And that's still where I'm at. So together we're learning to enter into that more sacred, sexual, intimate, spiritual realm. And as much as I would have continued, especially the sort of like the passionate side of sex, just getting it on, this more older part of me said, no, there's no need to get it on anymore. You have to really only allow the energy to go a certain way. For me, that was just my knowing. So I was one of those women whose sex hormones kind of went, yeah, and plunge. They really did. And I was like, no, not that, anything but that. But no, that is what happened. But the amazing thing is, you don't know it's happened. Your whole sexual self quietly goes to sleep. So it's not a sense of fretting. Oh my God, I've lost my libido. You're like, whatever.
Yeah.
And at times it's very freeing. And I've noticed that a lot of young mums said, oh, it's the same for us. Once we've had our child, we definitely go through this period of the libido going right down.
Yeah.
Because we're really in mama mode.
Yes.
And again, it's a case of, oh, well, no problem. So yeah, I was one of those women. It wasn't so bad. Again, according to the media, this is the worst thing in the whole universe that can happen to a woman. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a reset. I'm changing from one sexual being to another.
Yeah, and just being okay with the cycles. Thank you for sharing on that. I think
Oh, and if I can just add another important thing, there's a myth that when you lose your sexual hormones and energy, that the whole yoni dries up and kind of shrivels. Not true. Not true. I want to really bust that myth. So don't you be worrying. Don't you be worrying if your sexual desire goes down, your physical will be fine. Just carry on, yoni eggs, steaming, lots of self-care down there, root locking, internal squeezing and lifting, all of that stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's so much that you can do to work with not only the yoni, but the womb. It's really incredible when you start getting into this work, all of the tools and support that you can bring into this part of your body and the effect that it has on the rest of your life when you just focus on healing this aspect. And I really appreciate you sharing your experience with the changing sexual energy. And I definitely have I haven't experienced that myself, but I've experienced that in others, like mothers and women who have crossed through the initiation through menopause. And I also feel like it would be significantly different for women if it was approached more consciously by the men. I feel like that would make a really big difference. As what I was hearing from you was that there was a piece of you that knew there was more potential in that realm for you, that you weren't being met on that level. And I feel like so many women feel that way. Like there's just more potential in that realm. Like there's a deeper, bigger, fuller expression that their sexual energy longs to experience, but it's not there yet. We're just not there yet in society. We just haven't been brought up with that consciousness and the right education. The men haven't been taught about their sexual energy, and there's just we're just not quite there collectively. But I'm really looking forward to you're fine.
Excuse me.
Bless
it's
you.
raining outside.
Hey, it was just raining here.
Ah.
So, I just want any women that watching this to know that you're totally not alone if you're feeling like your sexual experience is not expressed in the fullest way that some part of you deep down knows is possible. I think that's where most women are at, and I believe that that's going to shift for us in the future, for future generations. The more we get these types of conversations going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big insights. If I just carry on saying yes, then this is all you are both, me and my husband, this is all you're going to know. It's like Eve, it's like Lilith again in the garden. What do you want? You want to stay here and just be wrapped in cotton wool and have a perfect little life? Or do you want to bite the apple? And I'm like, oh God. Because I was terrified of saying no.
Oh, man.
What's my husband going to do? Run off with a young woman? That's what I was thinking in the middle of my menopause. And I was like, no, I got to be strong. Not defiant, but strong, and just, it's like energy. If energy is going that way, I need to stop it and put a little U-turn in there.
Totally. Well,
Let's try something else.
There's so much momentum going in that direction in the way that sexual energy has been interacted with for a long time, which is very limited. And it is really hard to find your voice in that realm because it hasn't really been done. Women haven't really been expressing what their true needs and desires are. And I think a big part of that is we haven't even known what our true needs and desires are. So how can we tell someone else what we want?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of women in that boat. So that's another piece that I'm really excited to be talked about more, and education about that, because even if you have the awareness that there is more, that the way you're going about it isn't fulfilling you on the levels that your intuition knows that you really want to be fulfilled on, even if you're aware on that level, most of us don't know what to do with that. Most of us don't know how to approach it or how to move through it or how to work with our partners on it. And it's just a big piece that really needs some love for humans. It's beautiful that you were able
my husband kind of got so into it. Pete Wilson, you can find him on Facebook. So he got like so into what I was saying, and of course there was the at the beginning. What? And then he educated and he kind of learned a few men's things, and then he started men's work. So now he's
Beautiful.
totally able to speak to other men
Yay.
about start conversation.
Ah,
Yeah,
so good to hear.
yeah. Because
That,
there is a sense of like entitlement, especially, you know, older guys. Not so much the, you know, the young ones coming through, but an older man, there's a sense of like entitlement. Well, you're my wife. You're you're just meant to say yes, always. And you are not supposed to be changing this thing called sex. It's worked for a long time. I'm happy with it. There was, and this is what the conversation between the men opened up to. They realized that they had this entitlement piece,
mm,
but you know, they realized it in like conscious heart reflection, like, oh God, yeah, me too. And they
wow.
didn't want it. They didn't want to have this feeling of entitlement.
Mm,
They knew that it had been passed on down the ages.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Ugh, men's work. I'm so grateful to see that
yeah,
emerging in the collective right now because men need it too. It's not just the rise of the divine feminine. It's
yeah,
it's like that divine feminine in the man
that's
that
right.
allows them to be more conscious
Yeah,
and connected with their own nature. And I personally believe that men don't even know the extent of pleasure that they're able to experience,
yes,
that
yes.
having women like find their voice and speak up and say there's more,
Yeah,
there's there's more to experience, and it isn't just for the woman, it's
yeah,
for the men too.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Mm.
I'm sure that he has been walking that path of conscious men's work. That's so powerful. And I am so grateful for every man that is answering the call to serve in that way because it is so needed. I just
Yeah.
really looking forward to future generations who have this knowledge given to them at the age that they really need it and can really grow up with it and create a whole new civilization for us on the planet that's
Mm.
much more in tune and evolved and just
Yeah.
aware. It's really awesome.
Mm.
Well, what a beautiful conversation we have
Yeah,
had today.
have a
I
good ground.
so enjoyed the adventure that we have gone on through this conversation and everything that we have covered. Is there anything else that you want to share with any of the women that are tuning into this that we haven't covered already?
No, I don't think so.
Beautiful.
Maybe just to mention my last book, Fierce Feminine Rising, is also available in audio. So I've narrated the whole thing, and
Ooh,
it's more of a transmission, and that's, I like that. You know,
yeah.
there's some good storytelling going on in there.
Oh, I'll bet. And I'm so grateful that you are telling stories because
Mm,
that is a huge piece that our civilization has been missing. That's healing and empowering. And
yeah.
I'm just so grateful that you are doing that and taking up that role of storytelling.
Mm.
Um, so if people want to connect with you or more of your work or energy,
Mm.
do you feel like it's best to get one of your books or connect with you on social
Yes.
media?
Yeah, I'd say go to the website, which is my name, anayasophia.com, where there is, oh, blimey, it's quite full. It's full of audio and video and articles and blogs and interviews. I interview other people. I love talking about the elephant in the room. So I've just started this vodcast, which is podcast with video, and it's called
Mm,
Messages for Humanity. And next month in May, we're going to be talking to a sex trafficker survivor.
Whoa.
And who else? What else? Yeah, we've
Wow.
been talking about white fragility, ecocide, death and dying. So, and again, this is very reminiscent of this, you know, this crone energy coming through. It's like I'm steering away a little bit from the sacred sexuality and sort of going into pockets of life now, you know, just to like kick up some dust. Let's talk about this.
Definitely.
But in a heart space, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm my goodness, I'm so interested and a little bit afraid to hear that her name's Vanessa Jade. She's going to tell her story of how she was passed around very well-known people as a
Wow.
child. And this is her book, so you know she's writing about this. She's very open about this. But I've never spoken to anyone like that before, so I can already feel it coming in.
Yeah. Yep. That is some of the really uncomfortable stuff that humanity has to hold ourselves through. And I mean, it's part of healing, is shedding light on it, and that's how you do it, is you bring it up to our awareness. And I just think that's really incredible. I've seen two other women in my life who have been part of military programs like that, where they have been in horrific sexual abuse programs from young ages, and they are some of the fiercest, most powerful women I've ever seen in my life. And that is just miraculous and such a testament to the true power of the spirit of a human being to experience and endure all of that and still come out of it and heal and help. It's just amazing. Thank you for doing that interview. You can find information about that on your website. Is that what you said?
Yes. It's on website, Facebook.
Definitely.
Yeah, just about to start really getting behind that now, so that everyone who needs to know can come and listen.
Thank you so much for hosting that. I'm definitely going to be checking that out myself. I feel like it's important to be able to witness that with a compassionate, open heart. I think that's a really big part of the healing. There was a little promotional offer that you were offering the audience. It was a free talk. Is that what it was?
Yes, I have a transmission for the menopause. If you're nowhere near it, it's still absolutely relevant, and if you're in it, it's very, very healing. So I would like to share that with you gals. I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember the exact title, but it doesn't matter. It's a transmission for entering what I call the Hall of Mirrors. Entering the Hall of Mirrors, aka menopause.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll provide a link for that for everybody. And thank you so much for offering that. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful, authentic energy and your wisdom and your vulnerability and all of your experiences during this.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. It's been a joy having you here. Thank you, everyone who tunes into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as me. I will include all the necessary links to stay in touch with Miss Beautiful Anaiya Sophia and get some of her books if you want, and access to that transmission for entering into the Hall of Mirrors. This sounds lovely. I can't wait to receive that. So if there isn't anything else you want to add, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
That's it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
South of France. And I will talk to you soon. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Aloha.